What we're going to talk about today is using a SWOT analysis to improve on offense. Follow me on Twitter at Coach Vint. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video. I've got a link to my blog down below and some other resources for you. Check those out in the description. All right. So what's a SWOT analysis? What are we talking about here? Before I even get into this, here's what I'm going to tell you. You're at the point in the season right now. I'm putting this out mid-season. Most people are 4 or 5 games in, depending on where you play. Some of you might be 3 games in. Some of you might be 6 games in. You're either exceeding or meeting expectations right now, or you're failing to meet those expectations. I've been in the situation as an offensive coordinator. I've been where we have struggled mightily. And the hardest thing to do when you're struggling is to be able to come up with solutions, to come up with answers, to be able to make those improvements. A lot of people, most people, are really good at pointing out the failures and the faults, but they don't know thing 2 about a solution or thing 1 about a solution. So I'm going to try to give you some tools today. If you're struggling to be able to turn your season around, if things are going well, you can use this tool to help them to go even better. So a SWOT analysis is something that we've used in the business world for many years. I use it in the corporate world, and I also used it in my time as an offensive coordinator and as a defensive coordinator. I used it when I was a head wrestling coach, when I was a head basketball coach, when I was a head track coach. A SWOT analysis is something that is universal, but it can help you as an offensive coordinator. That's what we're focused on here, to be able to determine your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then be able to put those into action to be able to perform at an optimal level, to be able to maximize your performance. So when should you do this? Well, first, I'm going to say that I think this is something that should be done before fall camp and before spring football. You should do this as you're into your off season. All right. Offensively, before you start spring ball, you want to go through this, and then before fall camp. And then when you're struggling on offense during the season, sitting down and doing a SWOT analysis can be a game changer for you. If you have struggled in the past, you may want to do a SWOT analysis coming out of the season. All right. And some of you probably already do this in some way or form or fashion, but you don't really have a process to it. And that's what I want to give to you today. If you want to get better on offense, this is something that you should be doing. And even when things are going well, this can benefit you greatly. One of the biggest mistakes coaches make is being satisfied where they are. Nick Saban is a great example of this. Nick Saban goes to Alabama after, winning a national title at LSU, goes to the Dolphins, comes back to college football, gets to Alabama, an elite program that was not at an elite level at that time, not performing at that level. Well, he gets them to perform at an elite level, and then he realizes that the game is changing, offenses are changing, and he needs to change. He needs to be able to make some adjustments. So what does he do? He brings coaches in to help to evolve their offense. And what have they done since? See, he could have won 8, 9, 10 games doing what they were doing, but that's not in his DNA. He's not here to win 8, 9, or 10 games. He's here to find out how good they could be every single day, every single year, and to continue to get better and to keep doing things better than they've done them before. That's how he's built. All right. Some people would say, well, he got out of his comfort zone. I don't think he got out of his comfort zone. I think he adjusted his offensive comfort zone. All right. And that's because what he does is what great coaches do. They analyze, they adjust, and then they adapt. They analyze where they are, they adjust what they're doing, and then they adapt their mindset to match the success that they want to have based on what they need to be doing. All right. So why do you need to do a SWOT analysis? If things aren't going well, this will give you a starting point. This is one of the things that when things aren't going well, you could throw spaghetti at the wall and hope something sticks, or you can have a targeted process to say, let's figure out exactly why things aren't going well. We know the what, they're not doing well. That's the what. Well, what's the why? Why aren't they doing well? And then how do we fix it? So it's going to give us a roadmap, all right, to target specific areas where we can improve. And then we can come up with a plan to put into place to improve those areas. You don't need to change your whole playbook to improve your offensive production. I heard a college head coach say this the other night. He said, well, we're not going to go out and change the playbook if that's what you mean. No, no, that's not what you have to do. All right. What you need to do, and I don't know your offense. All right. I don't, a lot of us is when a lot of coaches, we're fans. We're fans of teams when we're not coaching. All right. Or teams when we're watching games. We're fans. We grew up watching someone, but we don't know their playbook, just like a lot of our fans don't know our playbook. They don't know what the quarterback's reads are. Why did he see the open guy? Well, his eyes weren't there. All right. Maybe they were supposed to be there. All right. But we don't know that. I don't know his playbook. All I know is he's not taking advantage of space, and it seems like he might be putting some guys in a position where they're not utilizing their strengths, but they're playing to the weaknesses. All right. There's some things they can do there, but I'm not going to get a whole lot into that. I just want you to know that what we're talking about today isn't about changing or revamping a playbook. All right. We're talking about determining those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then being able to maximize out of it. All right. So what are we talking about with strengths and weaknesses? What are we going to look at? First, we're going to start off with our personnel. All right. And then we're going to go to concepts, processes, and then our practices. What do I mean by that? What do we do in practice each day? So with personnel, we're going to rank our guys from top to bottom. Listen, this is not a 5-minute thing, but it doesn't need to be a 20-hour activity. But this is something that's important. If we're really struggling, we're going to go through and we're going to take advantage of some time. We're going to invest a little bit of time into this. We're going to rank our players from top to bottom. We're going to rank our position groups. What's our strongest group? What's our weakest group? Who are our best players or our strongest players? Who are our weakest players? What's our strongest unit? What's our weakest unit? Are the best guys, this is a question we're going to ask, are we putting our best guys on the field? Is our offense tailored to our strengths? Are we getting our best 11 on the field, and are we playing to their strengths? Is our offense asking too much of our weakest personnel or our weakest unit or something that we're not very good at? Who's averaging the most and least yards per touch? Man, I'll tell you why this is important. A lot of times we're all numbers oriented. We're all going to look at the measurables. And you got a kid, he's 6'2", he's 185 pounds, he runs a 4.4, he's a 10.500 kid. But when the ball's in his hand, he's not putting up the production. I want to know that because we may have a guy, and I've had this before, where our best guy, the guy averaging the most yards per touch, we called him Waterbug. Kid was 5'6", he's 160 pounds, but every time he touched the ball, he averaged 13.5 yards. All right, but he only had a few touches. We want to look at the data, and I want to see who's averaging the most yards and least yards per touch. And then we're going to say, are we getting them the ball in a position to maximize their yards per touch? Or are we asking them to do something they're not good at? We had a kid playing running back. He was struggling. Great athlete. Looked like a running back. 5'11", about 190 pounds. He was struggling. He didn't have great vision as a running back. All right. He wasn't sure. He didn't play with confidence. We put that sucker out at receiver and threw him the ball, and he became a dude. All right. He became a guy because he was much more effective on the perimeter. So you've got to look at that. Sometimes your improving on offense is just simply saying, we've got to move this kid from inside to outside or that kid from outside to inside. All right. We've got to move this kid from right guard to left guard. It could be something simple. But a lot of times we make huge changes, but they don't have a positive impact. All right. We're talking about simplicity here. After we look at personnel, we're going to look at concepts. I'm going to run some data on concepts. We're going to talk about it. We're going to look at our concepts, best to worst, strongest to weakest. Now, you've got to have some metrics. I'll talk about this in a second. Can we fix the concepts that are our weakest? That's what we're going to ask. Can we adjust the scheme, or do we need to adjust the scheme? That means, it might be changing the protection. It might be changing an assignment. It might be adjusting the path of the back or adjusting a route. All right. Or do we need to adjust the coaching of it? Do we need to change something in practice? All right. To improve the skill of the players or players. If we can't improve it on either one of those two ways, then we're probably going to move on and we're going to eliminate that. All right. That's where we say we need to scrap the concept. An example of this was we found a few years ago, we were really struggling with our 4 verticals concept. When we ran this, and we throw 4 verticals a lot. When we called our 4 verticals concept with play action, all right, we were not completing the pass because the quarterback was struggling to execute the fake and then get his feet set and get the ball out. And he didn't have a great arm to get the ball down the field. But when we ran that concept off of our essentially our drop back pass game, he was completing it at a higher rate. And we were having more explosive plays. Why? Because he didn't have to execute the fake. He could immediately, he was getting his eyes to his read. It fit him better. What did that tell us? Well, we need to call it more from our drop back than from our play action. It also meant that one of the other differences in that made him comfortable was instead of being in a 6 or 7 man protection, it was a 5 man protection. Now it means we got one less guy to protect, but our back getting into a route helped him have a check down guy that he knew he could rely on if things didn't go well. So when you look at those concepts, you have to ask yourself these questions. What are our metrics for concept effectiveness? You have to have a way to measure, all right, if the concept is effective. Just a simple way. Now, we go a little deeper into this, but I'm just going to give you the simple version. 5 yards per play for runs with 5% or less negative plays. That means if we run it 5 times, we have 1 or 0 negatives. All right. And then 15% or more explosives. So 15% of the time or more we run that, it gains 12 yards or more. That's an explosive run. For passes, 10 yards per play. When we execute that pass, it's 10 yards per play with 5% or less negative, and then we want 25% explosive, which is 16 yards or more. Now we treat our catch and throw stuff, our fast screens, which are bubbles and now screens, we treat those like the run game. We use a run metric on those. Here's an example of the data. So I want to just show you real quick the data we use. Top is the pass game, bottom is the run game. So I'm going to separate those two out. I'm going to list each concept first by frequency. All right, how many times we ran it. And then I'm going to look at our losses. Those are our negative plays. And then I'm going to look at our average yards per play. And then I'm going to look at our explosives. All right, what percentage of those plays are explosive? And that helps me see what do we need to make some adjustments to. Is there something we're calling those things in the red? If we're calling that more than something in the green, we've got to look at why. And then, again, we're going to get back to what I talked about a little bit ago. Do we need to adjust something within the schematics of the concept? Do we need to adjust the coaching of the concept? Do we need to scrap the concept? All right, now we're going to look at processes and practice for our strengths and weaknesses. What are the strengths and weaknesses of our processes in game? You know, I'm talking snap count, huddle, lining up right, play communication, coaches on the sideline of box, playing faster or slower. I will tell you, shameless plug here, I do have a video on CoachTube on in-game communication for offensive coaches. I have had numerous coaches tell me that it was it made a huge impact on their program because they had chaos on the headsets, and you're always going to have some chaos. We wanted to have controlled chaos. All right. Then we're going to look at our practices. And I'll put a link to that in the description. Practices. What are the strengths and weaknesses of our practices? Some examples of this might be: do we have too many guys standing around? Do we have guys not getting reps? Are we not improving through the drills that we're doing? All right. How can we make our practice more effective? Do we need more individual, less individual, more team, less team, more group, less group? Things like that. Are we making the most of our practice time to prepare for what we're actually going to do in the game? Are our 2s and 3s getting reps? Are we finding a way to get guys reps that may have to play? Do we have guys coming into the game and they're completely lost because we haven't gotten them any practice time? All right, that's some important. I'm going to give you an example of group time. We were struggling with inside zone. We were a big inside zone team a few years ago. It's quite a while ago. I mean, we're talking back in about 2000, 1999 or 2000. We were running inside zone. We were struggling. We were new to inside zone. We were struggling with our zone combinations. My coaching mentor, Jerry Campbell, had taught me a drill called the V drill to do with our offensive line for their zone combinations, working a down guy to backer. What we did was we brought the running backs down for a group period of V drill to help the running backs understand the combination block and help their vision and pressing the heels of the offensive line. And then it helped our offensive linemen to have the back with them because it gave them a realistic look for where the linebacker is going to fit and helped us be able to be much more effective on those combos. That was something that came out of a SWOT analysis. And that SWOT analysis, sometimes you're not going to do a SWOT analysis on your entire offense. Sometimes you're going to do a SWOT analysis just on one concept. Sometimes it might be just your run game. It could be just your pass game. All right. Now, after we've talked about our strengths and weaknesses, we're going to talk about opportunities. Based on those strengths and weaknesses, what opportunities do we have? Are there complementary plays we can use? Is there a tendency we can break to create some explosives? Is there something we've done that we can adjust to gain more yards? Do we have a player coming back from injury? That's a great opportunity. Is there something we're better at than we thought we were going to be at the beginning of the year? This happens where something you think you're going to be good at, you're not as good at, and something you didn't think you're going to be good at, you're really good at. But your play calling and what you're doing preparation-wise hasn't matched that. Now you can make that switch and be really effective. All right. Is there a player that's better than we thought he'd be? Every year you're going to have at least one guy that's better than what you thought. And then you're going to have a guy that you thought was going to be really good that's might be a little bit of a disappointment. How can we help that guy that's a disappointment to overcome those struggles? And then how can we take advantage and utilize that guy that became a dude that we might not have expected to become a dude? So we're looking for those opportunities. Is there something we can take advantage of? And then our threats, all right? What threats are we facing? What threats can keep us from making the improvements we want to make? There are internal threats, there are external threats. Internal are from within your program, external are from outside. All right. We want to be able to see around the corner and anticipate problems before they come up. The Harvey McKay wrote a book, Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. All right. And it's about networking and building a network before you need a network. But I equate that the same deal, what we're talking about here. We want to anticipate problems before they arise. We want to have solutions to problems before they come up. If you see the problem before it comes up, you can eliminate it before it becomes something that festers. All right. There's a guy in your program that you need, probably got more than one if you're like us. All right. Like I was when I was coaching, you need to make sure they're doing the schoolwork so they're eligible. All right. That's a threat to your program. A guy being ineligible, a guy not showing up for practice. All right. Or not showing up to school or getting in trouble in school. What do you need to do to eliminate those threats? All right. How do you neutralize them? And then better yet, can you turn a threat into an opportunity? All right. So I hope this gave you some things that you can use. I wanted to give this to you relatively quickly. I am working on a SWOT resource. And when I get that out, I will tweet about it. So follow me on Twitter. And I will add it to the description here. I'm working on it. It's not there yet. I don't want to put something out that isn't going to be very beneficial for you. If there's ever anything I can do, reach out to me on Twitter. Let's talk some football. Make sure, again, you like and subscribe to this and understand that your success or failure does not depend on others. Don't give others power over it. The only person that controls your success or failure is you. Your job is to maximize what you have, make the most of the opportunity and the personnel that you have right now. You can't change the people in your program in the middle of a season, but you can change how you coach them. You can change how you develop them. All right. You can help grow their mindset. And you've got to build belief that by making these changes through this SWOT analysis, by analyzing, adjusting, and adapting, that you can come out and be much more effective than you have been. The worst thing you can do is stay where you are and act like a victim and act like you're stuck or act like everything's okay when you know darn well it's not. You need to get that drive and determination that your program, that your offense is going to be the best that it can possibly be based on the personnel that you have, the support that you have, and everything that you have put in place. I wish you the best as you continue your season. Remember, the only one that can stop you is you. And the most difficult competition that you face every day is the competition you look at in the mirror every morning. I wish you the best.